Our old friend Gilgamesh sets standards for other epic hero quests that come after him. And a lot of quests in Greek myth, within the Hebrew scriptures, the Christian scriptures, Norse myth, and even into the modern era. And I shouldn't even say even into the modern era because it never stopped. And it is still very prevalent in modern era. Those standards are present. Now, maybe not every standard that Gil set is present, but many of them are. And I want to take a look at a couple of tales that we usually don't think of in conjunction with the hero's quest, but nevertheless, when we examine them, they do fit some of those qualifications. And the first one that I want to look at is Moses from the Hebrew Scriptures. Now, Moses, according to the Hebrew Scriptures, was born in Egypt, and he was Hebrew, and he was hidden in the bulrushes in the Nile River to protect him from infanticide being conducted by the Pharaoh. And while he is in the basket in the river, he is found by royalty, and a princess of Egypt raises him in the court. So though Moses is not of godly blood, say as Perseus or Theseus or Gilgamesh is, he is raised away from his biological parents, and he doesn't know who he is until he is an adult. And then he has circumstances that happen that makes him understand that he isn't who he thinks he is. And he has to leave Egypt in order to save his life. And he goes into the land of the Midians, and he marries there. And then Yahweh calls upon him to go back to Egypt and save the Hebrews from their plight in Egypt. Now, at this point, we see a definite difference in Moses and in Gilgamesh. When Gilgamesh understands that he is going to die and goes on his quest for immortality, no one has to prompt him to do that. No one calls to him and says, Gilgamesh, you need to go find a cure for your mortality so that you can become immortal. This is a task that he takes upon himself. And he does it willingly because he wants to avoid death and avoid experiencing what it is that Enkidu is experiencing in Kir. Moses is a different case. Moses has settled down with his wife Zipporah and is happy. I guess I can put that label upon him, is happy. And when Yahweh calls upon him and tells him that he needs to go on this quest to free the Jews, he doesn't want to go. And he drags his feet. And he tells Yahweh, I cannot speak, and people are not going to listen to me. Now, when Moses says he cannot speak, this has been interpreted as that he stutters or he has a speech impediment. But Yahweh solves that problem for him, gives him courage, and sends him down into Egypt in order to save the Jews. And he confronts Pharaoh, conducts some miracles, and then leads the Hebrews out of Egypt and back into Canaan. Now Moses also suffers from a tragic flaw, and it is not his seeming inability to speak, but it is hubris. When the Jews are wandering in the wilderness and they're complaining that they don't have enough water to drink, and at one point Moses takes his staff and he hits the rock and water comes out of it, and he takes credit for that. He says, I am the one who did this, when indeed it is Yahweh who does it. And therefore he is punished for his hubris, and he is not allowed to go into the land of Canaan. So he suffers from that tragic flaw, which in his case is hubris, and is punished for that. And so Moses is by his quest and what it is that he does is a hero. Nope, he's not like Perseus. He's not like Theseus. He's not like Gilgamesh. He's a different type of hero, and he is an unassuming hero. The hero who does not originally want to take on the quest, we see this in later tales. In the Middle Ages, we have the tales of Arthur, and we talk about Arthur and other places, but it's not Arthur that I'm talking about at this point, but Gawain or Gawain. Gawain goes on a quest to kill the Green Knight, who is often represented as being the Green Man that we've talked about earlier because he's green. And Gawain doesn't want, or Gawain, I've heard it pronounced both ways, doesn't want to go. When the Green Knight comes into the hall at Christmas, when Arthur and his men, his knights, are feasting and sets forth the challenge, Gawain says, "Oh, I don't want to go." But he is persuaded to go, and he succeeds in his quest. So we have that reluctant hero standard then set. We see this in both Bilbo and Frodo Baggins. They don't want to leave the comfort of the Shire. And they do, and they go on their respective quest. And it changes both of them. This is another aspect of the quest, quite often of the quest. The ones who go on the quest, the heroes who go on the quest, they come back changed. And both Bilbo and Frodo are changed. And even though Bilbo stays in the Shire for a very long time, and Frodo stays there as well, when the opportunity comes to leave, they go. It's Thomas Wolfe said you can't go home again. And in World War II, the song was, how are you going to keep them down on the farm after they see Paris? It's hard. It's hard to go back home. And it's hard to settle down into the life that you once led once you have been out there and you have seen all of the things to see. Now, another hero that is not usually associated with the hero that we see in these quests is Jesus. And Jesus fits this in many ways. First of all, Yahweh is Jesus' father. And he is raised by Joseph. And so he is not only of, maybe it's not physical blood, but he is of godly descent. And he is raised away from his parents. And so that is a standard that we see in many other myths. When Jesus grows up, and Yahweh tells him, now's time to go on your quest, and he does. But his quest is quite different than the quest of other heroes. He doesn't go on a search for immortality. He does not go out and slay monsters per se, but he certainly confronts monsters when he spends time in the wilderness and is tempted by Satan. He is certainly fighting a monster, even if it is symbolically or metaphorically. But he overcomes this, continues on his quest. And then at one point he wants to withdraw from that, like we see from Moses. And that is, of course, when he is in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he says to Yahweh, his father, take this cup of poison away from me. I don't want to drink it. But then he accepts his fate because it is fate. And that was something that I neglected to mention about Moses' quest. It was fate. It was preordained. Jesus can no more turn from his fate than can Gilgamesh escape his fate of being mortal and dying. And fate certainly is a very strong coordinate in many of these myths, and it certainly figures within Jesus' tale. Jesus is sacrificed, and Arthur is sacrificed. Arthur dies in order for the land to produce. Oedipus, I guess you could say that Oedipus is a sacrifice of a sort, but not quite in the same way that Jesus is a sacrifice and that Arthur is sacrificed. Bilbo and Frodo, they give up some things, but it's not quite the same. And so sometimes we see these aspects of the heroes, and characters that we don't normally associate with the hero and the heroic quest. But they are certainly evident, they are certainly there, and sometimes we have to dig for those elements to see how they fit in with that the aspects that Gilgamesh set 5,000 years ago. Just continues on.